One other thing I want to talk about on a different note. Megyn Kelly had a conversation on her show yesterday where they were talking about offensive Halloween costumes. And she remarked that, in her opinion, she doesn't see why it's offensive for a white person to dress as a black person. If they're dressing as a black person they admire in order to pay tribute. And she gave the example of a white woman dressing as Diana Ross. Well, of course, this sparked outrage, and people were offended and hurt and traumatized, and it made their tummies hurt that she would dare to utter this opinion about costumes. And then later on in the day, she issued an apology. I don't think she owed an apology for two reasons. Number one, and I feel like a broken record here. I'm saying this all the time, but I think I feel like it needs to be said over and over again. That you cannot ignore a person's intent when they say something. So if somebody says something and you know that their intent was perfectly innocent, that they were not trying to be offensive, they were not trying to say anything hurtful. If you know that, then there's no reason to be offended. Even if what they said was clumsy, inartful, whatever. If you know that they weren't trying to be offensive, if you know what they meant, then there's no reason to be offended. And if you get offended anyway, it's because you wanted to be offended. It's because you are a cynical, opportunistic jerk looking for a reason to be offended. That is the only excuse to be offended by something. That's the only reason why a person could be offended by something that they know was not intended to be offensive. Megyn Kelly is just another example. You can disagree with her position about costumes, whatever. She clearly was not trying to be racist. That she did not consider this to be a racist comment. There was no racism underneath it. So if you say, well, I know you didn't mean it as racist, but I'm going to take it as racist, well, then you are a liar and a fraud if that's what you do.